Hanley, David Hanley from the Buena Vista Natural History Museum. Welcome, David Hanley.
Nice and abrupt. Good to see old friends. Yeah, it is. It's cool. I do, before I even get started though, I do want to make one comment, and it's in regard to our total group and people in our group. I keep seeing the stuff from Karen again. You know, I love the stuff you send out all the time, kiddo. Anyhow, you guys did see the thing. I hope the Benham, Herb Benham did a little thing on Philip Scott.
Yes.
And I hope you all got to see that. I was glad for him giving a little recognition to Philip. That was a relief for me.
Yeah.
Well, here I am at the Buena Vista. I've got it was founded by on the basis of the Miocene fossil bed out in near Hart Park, attached to COM. We were the building in COM. The little building they had, there was a couple of rooms that were dedicated to the natural history, and we had some of the Miocene fossil bed. And I got out to COM, and I got involved with the museum because Dad was doing the reptiles out at COM. And I saw this natural history stuff in there, and I was fascinated. And so I got involved with the Natural History Museum, and then they moved 26 years ago now. They moved downtown. Actually, a few blocks from where we are right now was our original starting point. And I've been with them. I like animals. Animals are cool enough, but my preference is the whole of sciences. One of the things that's been my mantra has been that Kern County has more science than any other county in the continental United States. And I can run the list, but let me go ahead and start with the presentation. That's right, I gotta hit share, and play. All right, this is what the front looks like of the Buena Vista Museum of Natural History and Sciences. We've added, since this photo was taken, we have added wrought iron, a big, beautiful wrought iron gate. As I was sharing with James and Carol earlier, that front, you see those little front alcoves. The homeless found those very, very useful for camping out at night and doing any kind of private, anything they wanted to try and do. And much to our dismay, because we had to do the cleanup on it. Okay, now we'll we now have a wrought iron gate across the front there. We had a wonderful, generous donation. We also have a wrought iron in the back. There was problems in the back alcove with them doing that as well. This is what really got me involved with the museum. We're about all the sciences and science education in Kern County. The foundation, of course, if you're looking at the map on there, you're going to see that this is a picture of what the area we live in looked like 15 million years ago. It was a marine bay, if you'll notice. Up towards San Francisco, there's a little jetty comes in, and there's almost like an island out there, which is the coastal range. And the San Andreas Fault runs through there. But here in Bakersfield, you can see on the bottom right corner, you can see that there's Bakersfield there in the shores of the marine bay that used to be here. And it turns out that that's the source of both The oil does not come from dinosaurs. It comes from marine bays. And marine bays are these wonderful things that digest organisms that fall to the bottom. And as the organisms are digested, they produce methane gas, but it's at such a cold and deep pressure that they get slammed together. So a single carbon methane gets slammed into another methane, makes it an ethane, and then another one, and it becomes propane, and then it's butane, and then it's pentane, and then it's hexane, and so forth, until you have long strings of carbon, and that's called oil. And so marine bays do that, and that's why we have oil in Kern County. But at the same time, up on the shores of Bakersfield, we had fossils of creatures would die and they would fall to the bottom, and the sediments would come out of what was probably pretty close to the Kern River at the time, or maybe even, what is it, the river that comes out closer to Arvin. And it would dump silt and sediments on top of the fossils. And we now have fossils from that 15 million years ago, which was the time of the great white shark. And so we have the largest Miocene fossil bed in the world. And so when they want to study great white sharks, they come to Kern County. The Miocene is 12 to 17 million years ago that we're talking about, that this was a marine bay. And so Kern County has the Miocene fossil bed. Of course, we have the petrology with the oil. If you look at that map and you look to where those rivers are, you'll see where we have the Sierra range of mountains forming. And as the two plates came together, the Pacific plate out in the ocean came to jam into the continental plate and slide. It caused a tilt blocking effect, which cracked the Sierras and caused them to have uplift, which exposed the silver and the gold that has given us the mineralogy over the years. And so we now have precious metals added to our scenario. Of course, the sediments that have built up in the San Joaquin Valley, which is where that marine bay was, are advantageous for agriculture, and we're the largest agricultural community. Now, that tilt blocking did make a separation between the valley and the desert. And over on the desert side, of course, we have aerospace, and we have Naval Weapons Center. And so we have one of the few spaceports in the United States. So we have aerospace. Now, as the years go by, slip induction fault gives us vulcanization. We've got effects of vulcanization. We've got this wonderful San Joaquin Valley over here, but we have the desert to the east. So we have four unique terrains that gives us more endangered species than any other county in the continental United States. And so my involvement here is really about, we have more science than any other county in the continental United States. And my goal is to see us become the science center for the United States of America. This is a large dream, but if you're going to dream big. And I believe it's worthy and appropriate. We have the stuff. We feed most of the world. We have our own fuel. We could be an independent nation if we so chose, just Kern County alone. So agriculture feeds a major portion of the world population. Our four different geologic regions give us a greater biodiversity than any other county. Our time as marine bay gives us the largest Miocene fossil bed in the world. They come from Japan and Germany. When I was over in Germany, they had some Miocene fossil beds over there that were kind of interesting. But in order to really understand what they had there, they needed to have references to over here, where we have many more artifacts and a much bigger exposed region to be able to study things and figure out the diversity of life. The desert, there's a platform for landing. The aerospace, the high pressure zones of the desert make that ideal for aerospace. You understand, high pressure zones create deserts. High pressure zones create clear skies, and we need clear skies for doing aerospace work. Of course, the geology, history. You know, if you've traveled around Kern County a little bit, I love the fact that we get all of these views from one single county. You know, you can see Montaigne, just a sweet little gopher snake. Don't worry, that's not a rattlesnake on that rock. That's just a gopher snake. They get up to 6 foot long, and they're one of the nicer non-venomous pets that you can actually have from the natural environment. We get everything from the plains like down below. You get, looking out from Taft, you can look out and see all the agriculture out there. You can see the mountains. You get up into the Sierras. What a wonderful place to live. Again, insofar as our county has more scientific potential than any other county in the continental United States, sociologists tell us that the higher the education, the higher per capita education you have in science, the higher the per capita quality of life in any given community. And so as a result, we are not just a natural history museum, we are a museum of all sciences. We want to promote all the sciences. We have lots of programs. We've had them in the past. We'll reinstitute most all of them. We have free third Thursdays for $1 admission on third Thursdays. We have Tim Elam does lectures occasionally. We get other people to do lectures on the first Saturdays, or will, as we set that up. That was a program we had before COVID. It's a program we'll have afterwards. Kids activities on those same Saturdays. We'll reinstitute the summer, spring science camps. This year I was doing, when we got closer in the summer and we were actually able to open with our scarves on, I was able to do some one-day camps. And instead of having to do whole week camps, we did one-day camps. And so kids were able to make scientific things. We had to skip night at the museum this year. I get to play the mad professor down in the basement. Mit der German accent, und this is my laboratory, and you can come and you can see the things that I blow up and I make the electricity, and yeah. So anyhow, main floor. This is where we are right now. I am going to switch back. Stop the share, and here we are. Back to me. If you look behind me, we have the African American, or the African section. I hope not to cause too much motion sickness. Of course, that guy right there, is he African? Anybody recognize who the guy?
Oh, kangaroo?
Yeah, right there, that guy right there. Yeah, is a kangaroo. Is that African?
Kangaroo. I wouldn't think so.
No, I wouldn't either. So that's Australian. Well, we do have we've got the zebra, we've got the water buffalo, and we have the kudus, and we have the ostrich, and we have the African elephant. Even out at Cal State, we used to have Cal State used to have a giraffe, and now we've got a giraffe. And so actually, as I look around, now this is not about Kern County. It is a big attraction for people, and I get it. We do have a whole lot that is Kern County specific, but when you get a collection of antelope, African antelope, there are 37 different antelope in this collection. Basically, anything with two horns is an antelope. And we have antelope over there. Of course, over here, we got the antelope fear. The lions. These are always an attraction. Of course, the tiger is also not African. We understand that's an Asian tiger. But we've got the African lions, we've got males and females. Of interest is that with these 37 different species of antelope, we have the largest diversity of antelope on presentation of any museum in California. They had a way of managing the antelope. You see the diversity all the way up to the beautiful Cape elands. That's an antelope, giant thing, as big as an elk. And yet it's considered an antelope, all the way down to the little dick. You look down in there, this little guy, right. Oh, okay, where is he? Right, that little guy right there.
Yeah.
That little guy right there, that's called a dick. Now, in Africa, you know there's not a lot of money in Africa, and so they have difficulty funding things. And so one of the things that they've done that was very clever, because there are so many tribes and property is such a scarce thing, they've decided to make each tribe responsible for a different species of animal. And you can have your property in so long as your animal is not endangered. And so they will assign each tribe a different antelope to be responsible for. And if they become extinct, then your tribe loses its land and it's a landless tribe. And so which of all the animals you think is, of all the antelope, you think is the most dreaded to have to be responsible for?
No idea.
The one they most dread being responsible for, the last one on their list of preferences, is indeed that little guy right there. All the members of the tribe that have to watch out for the dicks have scars all over the backs of their legs from their little horns, because they jump and they stab with those tiny little sharp horns. They torment their keepers. That's the one that. So anyhow, the origin of the museum. Of course, there's. Yeah, I love this. Of course, the native African name for that critter down there. Does anybody got a guess? Yes, warthog is the normal English name. Anybody got a guess on what the native African name for it is?
No.
Pumbaa. And you guys see Lion King?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Pumbaa. Now, when that first came in, Dad had just been to Africa. He went with Mike Hopkins to Africa, and he had this whole set of books in his collection on African things. And I don't know that you can make it out, but Pumbaa has his tail straight up in the air. And I thought, what a gag of the embalmer to do, of the guy doing the taxidermy, to put that tail straight up like that. And then I started reading up on it, and lo and behold, that's a sign of watch out, because that's the threat gesture. They put their tails straight up like that. That means they're about to attack. And they will take those tusks and they will ram between your legs and slash upwards to the right and to the left and cut your hamstrings. And they will eat meat, including intestines. They like the stinky part first. So they'll cut your hamstrings, you fall over backwards, they slice your abdomen open and start munching on the intestines before you're dead. So this is a formidable critter. I mean, it's good pork if you shoot it, kill it, and eat it. But they've got thick, bony heads, and so you got to be sure you kill it before it gets to you. Sorry. So now I'm coming into the thing that really got us started. I'm getting into the Miocene area. The Miocene is that 12 to 17 million years ago, again, that we're talking about, when this was a marine bay. Sharks are a big thing for us here because they're not like mammals. they're a fish that loses its teeth. The teeth all fall out. And if you look up on the wall, I don't know that you can tell the scale as well from the camera view, but that mouth up on the wall, that shark's jaw up on that wall, is a 6 foot by 6 foot opening. And so the megalodon sharks were actually a viable shark that got up to 60 feet long, size of a big school bus, the big school buses, not the small ones, big size school buses. And so imagine that jaw in the front of a big school bus. And so those guys could snack on whales, or adolescent whales would be a nice little lunch for them. And so anybody that's interested in megalodon, of course, Jaws was based on the idea of what if megalodon were still alive. More recently, we had a chance to do that with the movie Meg. If you saw that, we sponsored with the theaters to do displays when Meg came out about the megalodon sharks. And of course, a lot of the information comes from us for that on the megalodons, but they lose their teeth. So imagine 5 million years of sharks, all of them with losing up to 1,000 teeth a year. And imagine that for 5 million years, and probably 1 million different sharks of probably 1,000 different species. And so it's called the Shark Tooth Hill Formation. I don't think you've got any doubts about why. These are varying sizes. In this one display case, we have varying sizes of megalodon sharks. Shark size teeth. There are some hook shark in there, but most of them are the extinct makos. So there was the front one. You'll probably recognize. Let's see if I can get it here. You'll probably recognize this chart up here on the wall. That's the one I had in the introduction. But one of the other things that's very neat about that time period, in evolution, we talk about terminal species. We talk about critters that existed and then never exist again. And so there were a couple of hippo-sized species that lived in our place back then. One was the Paleoparadoxia, and the other one was the Desmostylus. The Paleoparadoxia, both of them were kind of beachcomber critters. They would be the size of a hippopotamus. They both had tusks, like one would use one almost like a clamming fork. If you look here at the Desmostylus, you see he's got smashing, crushing teeth. We're not altogether sure whether that was for grinding the deeper kelp or whether that was for crushing shells, but they would be able to dig down into the sand and the muck with their tusks, much like a clamming fork. And the other one was more of a raker. He would be able to rake up, and if you see on him, he's got scissor-like formations of teeth for cutting off the kelp, for making it easier to gulp the kelp. Gulp kelp. Say that fast. Gulp kelp. Anyhow, one of our early people that I used to love to talk with him when the museum was young, did this painting, this composite painting of the of what was here at that time. And of course, you can see up here, he's got an image of a megalodon shark. That would have only probably been a 40-footer, but they could take on any kinds of big elephant seal-like creatures, and they take off adolescents. He shows the dolphins, and the interesting thing about the dolphins is if you notice, the dolphins have really unusually long snouts. All of the dolphins have long snouts, and that's usually indicative of dolphins that have giant squid balloons. If you go up to Monterey Bay, they have a squid bloom each year in Monterey Bay, and the entire bottom of the bay. Squid are both male and female. They're hermaphroditic. They become mommies and daddies at the same time. And so there would be a whole bloom of squid. They dump all the eggs on the bottom. Well, those kinds of faces on the dolphins are perfect for catching squid or even sardines in large numbers. So they just have that long thing, and they clamp down on a whole bunch of them. There were giant sea turtles that were up to 25, 30 feet long. We had sperm whales. We had elephant seal sized Desmostylus sea lions. Let's see, let's go back to a little bit of share so I don't make you motion sickness. Share. All right, and play. Yeah, this is the main floor. Now I'm only going to have so much time. I'm getting pretty talky, and so I probably need to get going and show you a little bit more of the museum. We have an elevator, so if you're having difficulty moving around, I'm going to have to. Yeah, I mean, we've got the most complete. Come on. Filter feeding whales, baleen whales, have the most complete baleen whale specimen from that time period anywhere. We ended up actually being able to buy that and own that. Let me get you guys up to the top floor. Oh boy, we've been going, okay. I want to get you to see some of the neat new stuff that we have. You do the next one. Yeah, that was, here we go. That was the stuff we saw. Uh-oh, what direction are we going? Oh, you recognize that guy looking out of the shark mouth? Bottom left-hand side. Dr. Murphy. Ted Murphy. Very active member of 60 Plus. That was him. He came down and visited with us. Okay, now we're on this floor, and I can stop the share. Okay. Are we back? Yeah. Are you back to seeing me?
Today or tomorrow. Thank you.
Am I back on, or are you guys still on share screen?
Well, you're back on.
I'm back on. Okay. This is our top floor. We have 3.5 floors. This is the top floor. We have a lot of interest. Again, we do have to pay attention to our own. So in the time of the dinosaurs, we had mosasaurs. We had, again, a marine bay, and it had nautili in it, and it had mosasaurs that, again, were up to 60 feet long. These were a reptilian creature that is probably the predecessors to all of the all of the snakes and lizards that we have today. One of the evidences is they have 4 rows of teeth in the roof of their mouth. There's a fossil of a one that was probably about 45 feet long. That was a mosasaur. That's just the head. On the back wall was one of the most recent additions that we made. Although we were underwater mostly, up on the northeast corners, we were probably terrestrial in the time of the dinosaurs. But we were a marine bay again back for the most of the county. On the back wall is the femur of basically an apatosaur. I don't know, can you see that big, tall, brown thing? We want to have people understand the scale of the long-necked dinosaurs. I was able to pick this up for a fair price. And I wanted us to be able to talk to people about the size of it. So here you'd be less than knee high to a titanosaur. This was one of the sauropods, the big long necks, the vegetarian eaters. And so that's the actual cast of a titanosaur. I did a display for that. It was kind of, I liked it. It's informative for people that really get into paleontology. It would be a good study for somebody. You can tell what a critter eats by the shape of its teeth. And so I put this display together for the Kern County Fair a couple of years ago. And the stuff in the red are strict carnivores, and the stuff in the yellow are omnivores. They can swing either way. And the stuff in the green are straight herbivores. And so we have everything in the Miocene up back to the dinosaur days. Over here in the green, we've got the mammoth tooth. It looks very much like a gigantic horse tooth, to the things like dogs and wolves and humans that are omnivores, and then the red, the spike-like tearing or cutting teeth of straight carnivores. So anything we study, we can study that way. We've had a lot of people do good stuff with the dinosaurs up here. One of the things I'm kind of glad I did, we went to recapture some stuff that was not donated, it was on loan, but it went for sale at an auction. And so there are these teaching posters. There's 5 to a side, and these are the teaching posters of Karl Alfred von Zittel. And this is back in 1866 to 1903. He taught at the University of Munich, and it was that university was bombed to oblivion in World War II. So somebody pulled his teaching posters that he made and used. He's the father of dinosaur paleontology, and they were available. I got them for a mere $1,200 at an auction in LA. And so the hard part was getting them up here and getting them mounted under plexiglass for protection. But these were actual, you can see it was awesome artwork, and it's 130, 140 years old.
Wow.
One of the things we put out at the fair recently was the stuff, one of the things we have the oil. And if you go to LA, who's not impressed with the La Brea tar pits? Well, we had the same kind of creatures here that La Brea had. We had a smaller tar pit, but we had a tar pit in the same time period with all the same creatures in it. Out towards Taft, we have that seep, out McKittrick tar seep. And so we do have those guys on display. It's saber-toothed cat. We don't know whether he had stripes, so we don't call him saber-toothed tiger. Short-faced cave bear in the middle, and then the giant ground sloth. But there were also, giant our area Titanotheriums that were very much like a rhino, but with 2 nose prongs instead of 1. One of the popular displays that we aren't able to make travel much, and it is a good one for geology, gems and minerals. And let's see if we can see it. I don't know whether this is going to give you the proper lighting on it, but this is our black light room. And we've got black lights on there. And many of the rocks and minerals we have are black light reactive. They look different in the black light than they do otherwise. So this is our black light room. And if I push this, Yeah, it turns off the white light and you can see, and we're getting some of the white light from here too. So let's see if that'll help. Okay, yeah, I don't know that you can see the purples over here and the reds, okay. And the greens and the greens. And we're not getting quite enough black light on the scorpion over here. Of all the creatures, of all the natural organic creatures, it's not showing up well. The scorpion glows green just like the rock in a black light, but we're not getting enough black light wavelengths over here. It's a very specific wavelength and the bulbs burn out and they're about $200 a bulb. So they burn out after a certain amount of time, and so we have a limited use on that. I've talked about the uniqueness of the Miocene fossil bed. I've talked about the gems and minerals, and of course, we have lots of beautiful gem and mineral displays. I don't know that you're familiar with a sphere. In Kern County, we have a sphere club that takes things like agate and different nice looking rock pieces, and they put them on a very special kind of grinding stone and make spheres out of them. And as you can see, they make some very beautiful spheres. Lots of stuff done with our gems and minerals. Native Kern County fossils over here. Lots of good petrified wood. Of course, that's not really a fossil T-Rex. We're just getting ready for Halloween. And so just part of the mood. This is a long, lengthy, okay, let me get over to some stuff that will be, if you really are into mineralogy, rocks, and this is the most popular rock display in the museum. And we have this thing here at the museum. It's called On Cell. And so you can come in here and you can have a guided tour for free on your phone. And so any place you see one of these On Cell signs, you dial the number and then you hit the stop number. And if you put a 1 in the front of it, you get it in Spanish. And if you do it without the 1, with the 412, for example, it comes out in English. And this is a long-term loan from Tim Elam. This he used to have in his front room. And I guess he got tired of dusting it and was willing to put it on display here. As you can see, it's a good 3.5 feet tall. It's a significant exhibit. Of course, we have the borax out to the east as well. Borax is a valuable substance that was very important during World War II. We've got kernite, named after Kern County. I don't think we've got the display up that I made yet, but we've had volcanization in our community. We have a seismograph for the earthquake and the seismology. Native American peoples, the Yokuts peoples, are tied back to, and this is another one of Ben's paintings that is particularly beautiful. It shows what it was probably like with everything going on all at once, but it was a village, what a village would have looked out towards Taft from Buena Vista Lake. The Tuolumne Yokuts peoples made incredible baskets. They're unique. The reason we have Mayan artifacts is it's thought that their pedigree goes back to the Mayans. You remember a few years ago, they talked about the Mayan calendar. This is a little symbol of the Mayan calendar. But the idea is they would be able to take a device and go around it. This is a mechanical computer, and they could tell you the months of the year and the days and what you expected for crops and what you expected for weather. Incredible scientists, as far as astronomy goes. They said that 2021 or no, 2000 was supposed to be the end of the world. And it wasn't, it was just they had made calculations up for 600 years, and their calculations would run out at 600 years, which is pretty good mathematics. I don't know anybody can do that with a business these days, let alone a calendar of. So their typical village, this was something I always wanted, was a typical village. They lived by the Tules. They lived out and depended on the Tules. I've done natural life things of them, for them. If you look right there, that's a thing of chia, which is their favorite. It's in the mint family. If you've ever gone to the market nowadays, they do chia. If you put a handful of chia seeds in your mouth, they will swell up and the starch will stick to your teeth and it'll look like you got fleas all over inside your mouth. But it's really very yummy, very sticky. You've heard of the chia pets. They have you soak the seeds and then the starch adheres the seeds to the porcelain mold that you have. And then as they sprout, then you get green growing chia wherever you glued the seeds. This, of course, shows how they used to have an antler, a couple of antlers by the fire pit, and they would put rocks next to the fire, and they would use the antlers to put the rocks into the pot, into the weave basket, where they had mushed up acorns, and that would be how they would get the boiling or the cooking of the mush in order to make it mush for eating acorns and drying it out and making it into a mush. Down there, one of our friends that's a local Native American has put out a display of his flint knapping tools, the tools they use in order to make the spearheads and the knives and the arrows and the cleaning. Once I skinned a 12-foot Burmese python skin and I used a steel blade. It took me 8 hours and it took me another 3 days to get my back in shape. On the second 12-foot snake I had to skin, Gary gave me one of his little cleaning tools. I don't know if you can see that little tiny black, yeah, that pole's almost in the way. Yeah, teeny little black things next to, all right. Yeah, a little light black thing right there. That's the size of the scraping tool. It took me an hour and a half and I didn't nick the hide at all when I used that. That's obsidian. Obsidian is a wonderful scraping tool if you're cleaning specimens. Of course, this is a beautiful canoe. I love that they made the canoe for us. The actual Yokuts peoples would make canoes out of the tules like that. There's a waxy substance on their surface, and that's why it would work nice for their shelters up above and for their housing in the rain. The waxy surface on those tule staves runs the water completely off. And so here you've got these canoes. They would bundle up and that would float for weeks on end. They could actually put mud on one end and build a fire on it. And they could cook fish as they were floating around in Buena Vista Lake, dive over, grab some fish, put them up there, cook them a little bit on a stick, and carry on just living out in the water. They liked the water. They were very well adapted to living around the lake. We do have a lot of dino specimens. And we're back around. We've done a complete circle. We're back in the dino sections. We've had some, oh yes, I've got to show you the most famous, the Hollywood famous. We have, of course, Protoceratops, the ceratopsids that were prior to the Triceratops. They had variant different veils, but this guy right here is our Hollywood star. This guy is not, we don't own him. There was a local fellow that makes models, and he did a model of a velociraptor, and then he heard they were going to do Jurassic Park. Now, it was painted differently than this. It didn't have the yellow on the eyes and so forth, because that would not have been particularly accurate. Somebody came up here and did damage to it. He was kind enough to still repair it and let us have it back. But this is the actual velociraptor you will see in Jurassic Park when they took photographs of it. There's no actual animatronic velociraptors in the entire movie. They were all digital photographs of this individual here. Whenever you saw Velociraptor in the movie Jurassic Park, this is the movie star that you saw in that.
Wow.
So we get to have him in. This was a wonderful occurrence. Back when we were young, you know, we're a starving all-volunteer museum, and there was this Army vet that was dying of emphysema, and he was making his way by getting a hold of fossils, making casts of them, working with the resins, and then selling the casts that he made, the objects that came out of the casts of the fossils. And he was actually here in Kern County, and he had a fossil of this Triceratops cast, and he had already gotten 20 casts of it. And normally they would go for $6,000 a piece. And we contacted him, and he said, for a museum in Bakersfield, I'll do it for the cost of the resin. So we got a $6,000 specimen. Today it'd be a $12,000 specimen, but we got a $6,000 specimen for $600 worth of resin. And wonderful gentleman. He's since passed away of emphysema. Agent Orange did him a number during Vietnam. I'm sorry to concentrate so much on me, but come on, say at that same auction where I got the one of my favorite bones. This sounds silly, please excuse me. One of my favorite bones to talk about is the ulna. The ulna is an interesting bone. In our arms, it's this one here that undulates up and down, and it's the one on the back of it that has the olecranon process, which if we get behind it and punch behind it, it hurts like blazes, because that's what we call the funny bone, right? And the reason for that, of course, is if we did this, all the nerves and the blood vessels, if we didn't have that olecranon process, all the nerves and blood vessels would be cut off and our arm would go numb. We'd lose feeling in our arm and blood flow in our arm. And so we have to have a place for the blood vessels and stuff to go through. And it's right in here behind this little elbow thing we got here called the olecranon process. And so the olecranon process is a way I can identify an ulna on just about any animal we dig up. And so I like ulnas. I'm really stuck on ulnas. And so there was Ornithischia ulna that are Cretaceous Edmontosaurus ulna that I could pick up for. It was only $120 for that fossil, but that's a genuine fossil of an Edmontosaurus. It was actually in an arm of an Edmontosaurus back in the day. Dinosaurs roamed the ground, but now they're underground. And so lots of other stuff on dinosaurs and stuff. Our dinosaur guy went to Cal State Bakersfield. He was kind of a, this is our lovely elevator. And he would always point out in the elevator, Travis Bybee. He's now working out at Windwolves. And if you ever get out to Windwolves, ask for Travis Bybee. He'll give you one heck of a tour. See, there's this dent in this elevator door. This is thick steel. This was done when I was doing a dry ice bomb during one of my summer demonstrations. And so that was always part of the tour. You had to see where Dave Hanley tried to blow up the elevator. Sorry, just had to throw that in. We're getting, okay, there's the time. Let me switch back to the screen share and back to, where's my, Screen share. Where's the, oh, there we go. Okay. And share. It wasn't on a picture. Dinosaurs, gems, minerals, petrified wood, Pleistocene, hydrology. Right. Next. Oh, we're gonna do play. Sorry. Okay. It's on there already, but that's a sampling of what's up. Depths of the museum, which isn't quite open yet. Again, we've had to keep it closed because of certain things. It says my internet's unstable. It's probably because I'm underground. But this is a lot of the stuff that I was, responsible for. Yeah, now you can be really glad that I've got this on the screensaver or on the screenshot, because I'm really rolling now. You get some motion sickness up the sleeve. This is what? What stopped? Who stopped? Are we there?
It
Still
had
with you?
something to do with the recording, but it started again. So you're,
Oh, okay.
right, I think.
This is an area that is very popular with young parents. This is, oh yeah, I gotta stop share. Okay. We're down in the basement now. And here we go. This is the Discovery Center, part of it. This is one half of it. It's split in the middle. And this is a place that's very popular with young parents with their kids. They come down here and the kids will take all of those sponge blocks and all these things here and put them together. It's a neat little discovery play area. It's very good for them. We've got a camera so that we can watch it in here. And this is what we'll see is we'll see the parents bring the kids in here and the kids are pulling out dinosaurs and they're pulling out blocks and they're throwing things and they're building things, doing all kinds of creative things. And then we see the parents down here and they're sitting in the little kiddie chairs. They're going. How American is that? You know, they're busy away on their cell phones. They're sitting down in the little kindergarten chairs, just busy as all get out on their cell phones. Anyway, the young parents of today. We have a aerospace area that's advancing. Oh, come on. Oh, that was the carpet. Okay, good. And I guess we'll turn on the power in here. And again, this has been closed for the time being. Not so much for this as for the other room where we have the sand tank, which is a fossil dig tank. We have, of course, back in the days when we used to call it 9 planets, this was something that somebody had made in the welding shop, and they had it set with 9 planets. What's wrong with 9 planets?
Pluto's not a planet.
Yeah, they kicked Pluto out. How do you like that? Poor little Pluto out here got kicked out. So this is our aerospace. There was one thing that was kind of neat from the aerospace. And again, I got it at the very same auction. I've always wanted a meteorite, a rock from space. And this one's kind of special in several different ways. First of all, it was the only one I could afford. I think it was only $120 as well. But it's more carbon than it is iron. Most of them are heavy in iron, so it has no magnetic attraction. It was actually observed by legionnaires in the Sahara Desert coming through the sky and hitting in the sand, and they went and dug it up, which makes it even more scarce and more rare. but it is an actual meteorite landed in the Sahara Desert. We have proof that they actually saw it and brought it. So anyhow, we're able to have an actual meteorite that was in space. I got to touch space.
Cool.
I like touching space, don't you? One of our past presidents got a little piece of the NCR graph paper from going to the moon lander. And so that's in that resin block in there. And so this is a moonscape that we have, the Apollo 15 scroll checklist. And so we've got that in the aerospace. We've got some other things that NASA has loaned us, the globe of Mars, of course. And anybody that really loves aerospace, there's a few of our space exploring satellites that we've done. And so anybody that's excited about space can come down here and look around a little bit. We're happy for all ages. Let's see, share screen, there we go. Share. And I think I'm going to polish this off. Okay, there's the aerospace. You saw the Ozone Discovery Center. The human body thing is because of the floods, because of the stuff we had to move and so forth, the human body display is pretty much torn up a little bit. You knew we had the 2 fires in a row. And then there were, of course, there was always the COVID issue. And so with COVID, we've had a lot of things that we couldn't know. We have the topography sandbox, and that's a wonderful thing, except that it's got sand in it. And with everybody's concern about contamination, we have to be reluctant to let people put their hands in the sand. So now, I had to get the lights on, but aerospace, there we go. Now we're in my creation. Back to play, there we go. And now we're in my creation. This room that we're in right now, and I'll show you in just a second in person. This is the room that was part of my dream 20 years ago when we first moved into this building. I had this idea of an animal classification room where you did animal classification down and dirty in the whole room. You had the whole room to work in. And so I learned it, or I invented it back in the days. And again, we're not open. Part of the reason we're not open is the sand pit. We're worried about people getting contamination from the sand pit. Can't see that there. There we go. The sand pit. But it has some marvelous specimens in it that I put in here. We've got the dolphin skull here. We have the boar skull over there. Yeah, here's the nose of the boar skull. We have megalodon teeth. We have sea lion vertebrae. Lots and lots of stuff for kids to discover in the sandbox. But again, sand is not right now our friend because of the COVID issues. So I got in here and I wanted to make a room that taught my concept. And so if you look, oh, it's upside down. That's why. Okay. It looks upside down because it was. Okay. Okay. So over here, we have what's called the animal kingdom. And oh, crud. 35 years ago, I'm getting ready to teach invertebrate classification to my students, and I'm at a full out loss. The book is talking about bilateral symmetry and all kinds of stuff that seems confusing. And so I said, I've got to make it simpler. I've got to make it where the kids would understand science's job is to make things simple. And so I invented this classification thing about 2 o'clock in the morning, but it works. What I did was there are 9 basic phyla categories called phyla in the animal kingdom. Those categories are Porifera, Selenorata, Platyhelminthes, Nematoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata. Don't worry about pronouncing these, or no test afterwards. Annelida, Chordata, and Arthropoda. And for the most part, all of our present day animals are in one of those 9 phyla. So I had to figure out a way to make it easy to identify which phyla something was in. So I said, I want one trait, this was my original parameter, one trait to determine a phylum I can pull out separate from the others. And the easiest first one out was Porifera. That's because sponges are porifera, means lots of holes. Fancy that, sponges have lots of holes. Porifera has no nerves. And so this right here is a neat display we're gonna have on Porifera. Somebody has given us a giant sponge. It's not yet in the display. It's gonna go in this display case right here. Porifera, but these are animals. They breathe oxygen and expel carbon dioxide. They reproduce sexually, but they have no nerves. All of the remaining 8 phyla will have nerves. So we've got one of the phyla pulled off on the basis of nerves or not. Then of course, the next one on the chart, the next category on our chart is, does it have a sac gut? There will be the ones that have sac guts, all the rest will have a tube for food to travel through. And so over here we have your jellyfish, you've got your sea anemones, you've got your corals, all of them are a sac gut. Food falls in, they digest it, they spit out the remains, and it all goes in and out the same opening. And so those are Selenorata or Cnidaria. Then we've got, so we only have 7 left. Everybody else has a food tube. Then we have flat ones and round ones with no blood or no circulation. Tapeworms and planaria are the flat ones, and trichomonas and the raw pork ones and the little pinworms that people get are the round ones. They have no blood, but they have longitudinal tubes that food travels through. So that takes out 2 more, that leaves us down to 5, and so forth. And we go around the room all the way over to the arthropods, and then we go over to Chordata, and that's the one that we're in with the vertebrates. We've got the 3 classes of fishes: amphibia, reptilia, aves, and mammals. And so this is an animal classification room. I can come down here with my students and have them get the concept of classification in one session, and it'll stay with them for life. So we have a lot of neat things down here. We have a little special, well, silly little things. It doesn't hurt to have little silly things around to distract you a little bit, I don't think. One of my student friends gave me this. He said he was gonna get me a 6-foot chain, and when he brought it over to my classroom, he said he was gonna need some help getting it out of the trunk of his car. I said, how long is it? He said 6 foot. Anybody a sailor? Anybody from the Navy? You recognize an anchor chain?
Yep, that's an anchor chain.
Yeah, you see a sailor and he's missing fingers? All you gotta understand is all you had to do was have that finger in one of those loops, and it's instantaneously removed from your, a lot of sailors have lost fingers off of these anchor chains. I had a student that wanted to get a higher grade. He was flunking. And I said, if you can hold this out, shoulder height.
I think you're frozen, Dave.
Yeah, there you go.
There.
There we go. Hit and miss. I know we've got we only really are supposed to have about an hour's worth. And so I've left a few of the little small, of course, that leaves it available for people to discover stuff in between, find notes and that sort of thing. Any questions?
Are they still digging in Shark Tooth Hill?
We still get a few specimens from there. There's a person who has ownership of Bob Ernst. Bob Ernst was this wonderful humanitarian that lived in this county. He had a big chunk of land that was in some cattle area. And he put on loan a lot of stuff. He gave us a lot of stuff. We lost some of it when he passed away. The biggest thing we lost was his expertise, because he could look at a fossil that you'd have to spend hours and days trying to find out what it was and say, oh yeah, that's the first digital phalange of a Desmostylus sea lion. And incredible expertise from all the years digging in the hill. So we lost his bank of knowledge in his head. He died of renal failure. His kidneys just shut down, and within 48 hours he'd passed. His son inherited the land. His wife and his son, they figured out a split that was appropriate for both of them. And he still does some digs on it. He's got it subdivided. He's using it as an income source. If every giant mega $1 million sweepstakes, I submit one ticket. And if I ever get one of those, one of the first things on my list is going to be to buy research property for the museum. I would love for us to have our own piece of land to be able to do Miocene fossil research.
Yeah.
That would be a real mark to the museum.
Yeah, great.
You know, like the La Brea Tar Pits. LA
Yes.
Natural History Museum and is attached. They have their own La Brea Tar Pit Research Center. I would love for us to have our own Miocene fossil bed research center. I see that as would be a real clue.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Any other?
Okay. You part of staying on just for a couple of minutes.
Oh, I'm gonna take a rest now.
All right. Okay.
Well, it's good to see y'all. We're always welcoming volunteers at any level. Anyone willing to learn a little bit about the displays down here, to washing display windows, to just sitting on the cash register if they so wish. We can use help in every way. We're primarily a volunteer museum, though we have developed 5 employees, which is kind of fresh for us. Coral Hantrick has done a wonderful job of being able to find funding in order to be able to hire people to do things like we've got a wonderful technology guy. Clint is doing incredible things with our website. So if you go to the Shark Tooth Hill website, you find all kinds of resources that Clint's been able to list on there, including activities to do with your kids. And so if you've got, or grandkids, and our grandkids, or heck, we can have great grandkids at this realm. And so, you know, if you're sitting around going, gee, what's an activity I can do? You guys are obviously connected by the internet, so you've got that access. Go to the Shark Tooth Hill website and find an activity. They'll have activities for kids and stuff. Find activities you can do with your grandchildren or great-grandchildren. Or show it to your, we have some lectures on there that you might find really interesting, where we've had from the expert talking about, we've got some experts. Tim Elam, I told you the Saturdays, he doesn't come in person and do the Saturdays because he's living up near San Francisco now, but he has come down and they did record it recently with the expert. He's got ones about finding gold in California. You'll find that on the website. And it's really a fascinating lecture. He's got, I think, at least a half a dozen on the website, and they're all very interesting. Roadside geology. So
Oh,
he used to go around, beautiful things on the website. I think you'll love them if you go to them and to access them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you doing this for us, Dave.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I love this group.
This has
I
been
need to send in my
fascinating. I love-
dues.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I